Ladies and gentlemen, there's a cry deep within the human heart, a longing to know what's next. Where is my life headed? What is my purpose? We stand at the edge of each day, staring into the unknown, hoping we're not just drifting through time, but walking toward a destiny. And I came here to tell you today, there is a key to living your future, and it's not hidden. First, faith is the foundation. You cannot build a future on fear. You cannot build a future on fear. You cannot find your way by following every shifting of true, unshakable faith is what plants your feet on solid ground, not in yourself alone, but in the one who made you, who knows your name, and who holds your tomorrow in his hands. Second, hear me now. Purpose is greater than pleasure, greater than pleasure. We live in a world that says, do what feels good and do it now. But what feels good for a moment can rob you of meaning in the long run. Purpose is what drives you to get up when you're tired, to give when you're empty, to stand firm when the wind is strong. When you live with purpose, you live with power. Third, let me tell you a truth that never fails. Decisions define destiny. Your future isn't written by fate. It's carved by the choices you make when no one's watching. One small act of courage, one choice to forgive, one moment of surrender can change your entire life's direction. Fourth, in a world of shifting values and broken promises, character is the compass. You may not always know the way forward, but when your heart is anchored in truth, when your words are honest and your actions pure, you'll find your way. Storms will come, but integrity will keep you standing. Fifth, never forget, hope anchors the soul. Life may wound you, people may fail you. Plans may fall apart, but hope, real hope, is not based on circumstances. It's rooted in the assurance that your story isn't finished and that the best chapters are still to come. And finally, the sixth and greatest key, live for eternity, not just for today. Too many live only for applause, for comfort, for the next thrill. But there's a bigger picture. What you do now echoes into forever. Your life matters, not just in the moment, but in eternity. So I ask you, are you living your future, or are you merely surviving your present? Choose faith over fear, purpose over pleasure, character over compromise, and eternity over the temporary. The key to living your future is living it with meaning, with faith, and with hope that never dies. Faith is the foundation, because without it, you are walking in the dark with no lamp to light your path and no compass to guide your direction and no hand to hold when the storms rage and the winds howl. Out in the world says you are alone, but deep within, you know you're not alone, because faith whispers. When the noise of doubt screams and faith stands still, when everything else shakes and crumbles and falls to pieces. Faith is the foundation, because money fades and beauty fades and fame is fleeting. Friends can walk away and plans can fail and health can break and promises made by men can be broken. But faith in something eternal, in something unshakable, in something greater than yourself will hold you up when everything else lets you down, and you will still be standing when the dust settles and the fire dies and the silence falls. Faith is the foundation, because it reaches beyond the senses, beyond what you can see and hear and touch and taste. And it dares to believe in the invisible. It dares to trust in the impossible. It dares to walk forward when everything around says stop and turn back and give up and sit down with faith. It says rise and move and believe and keep going, because the finish line is not always in sight, but it is always ahead. Faith is the foundation, because it does not demand proof. It does not need applause. It does not beg for approval. It does not shrink in the shadows. It does not run from the valley. It does not fold under pressure, because faith was never built by ease, but by fire and storms and long nights. Tear-stained prayers that no one else heard, but the one who answers in silence and speaks in stillness and shows up when no one else does. Faith is the foundation, because when fear creeps in and doubt knocks loud and anxiety tries to take over and darkness tries to swallow you whole, you can still close your eyes and lift your hands and cry out with nothing but a whisper, and know that heaven hears and help is near and strength is coming, not from within you, but from above you, and that strength will not run dry. Faith is the foundation, because it teaches you that you don't need to know everything to trust the one who does, and you don't need to see the whole map when the one guiding you knows every turn and every hill and every valley and every river you'll have to cross, and he has already made a way. There was no way, and all he asks is that you take the next step, even if it's trembling, even if it's uncertain, even if your voice shakes when you say yes. Faith is the foundation, because it anchors you in truth when lies are loud and truth is rare and culture shifts and opinions fly, and the ground beneath your feet starts to move, but your soul is fixed. Your mind is set, your heart is steady. because your foundation isn't built on sand, but on the rock. Something eternal, something holy, something that cannot be shaken even when the earth gives. Faith is the foundation because it is the beginning and the middle and the end of every journey worth taking and every life worth living and every future worth dreaming. And when all is said and done and your story is told and your race is run and your eyes closed for the final time, the only that will still stand, the only thing that will still speak, the only thing that will still shine will be the faith you carried when you had nothing else. Purpose over pleasure, because pleasure fades like a flame in the wind and leaves you emptier than you began, while purpose digs deep roots into your soul and anchors you when life shakes and pulls and demands more than you thought you had. And while pleasure promises comfort into this craving, purpose calls you higher and takes you deeper and stretches you wider until you become more than you ever believed you could be. Purpose over pleasure, because pleasure chases the moment, but purpose chases meaning. And while the world tells you to indulge and escape and numb the pain with noise and distractions and temporary highs that vanish before the morning comes, purpose tells you to endure and to press on and to lift eyes and to believe that there is more to life than the next thrill. The next rush, the next empty fix that leaves your spirit tired and hungry. Purpose over pleasure, because pleasure is loud and flashy and demanding, but purpose is quiet and steady and faithful. And while pleasure might offer applause and approval for a moment, it never lasts, it never satisfies, it never speaks to the deeper questions of your soul, but purpose whispers in the silence and walks with you in the dark and builds something inside you that comfort never could. Purpose over pleasure, because you were not created to be entertained. You were created to be fulfilled, and fulfillment doesn't come from feeding your flesh, but from serving something greater than yourself, from waking up with a reason to rise and laying down at night with peace in your heart, because you gave your day to something that matters and left a mark that won't wash away. Purpose over pleasure, because the path of pleasure may be wide and easy and filled with many voices calling your name, but it leads to emptiness and regret and wasted time, while the path of purpose may be narrow and uphill and quiet, but it leads to life and joy and legacy and the kind of peace that cannot be bought and the kind of strength that cannot be shaken. Purpose over pleasure, because every great story is written in sacrifice and perseverance and sweat and fire, and not one lasting legacy was built on comfort alone, but on conviction and commitment, courage, and choosing what is right, even when it's hard, and walking away from what feels good when you know it's not good for you, because your calling is greater than your craving and your destiny is worth the discipline. Purpose over pleasure, because there is something inside you that was born for more than survival, more than escape, more than the empty promises of a world that wants to use you up and throw you away. And deep down, you know you were made to build something that lasts, to touch lives, to lift others, shine light into dark places, and that will never come from a life spent chasing only what feels good. Purpose over pleasure, because will pass and the applause will fade, and the thrill will grow dull, and all that will remain is what you lived for, and who you became, what you gave away, and whether you chose comfort or calling, whether you chose comfort or calling, whether you lived to be seen or lived to serve, whether you spent your life or invested it. And when that day comes, may it be said that you lived on purpose and not just for pleasure. Decisions define destiny, because every step you take is shaping a path even when you don't see the road ahead. And every yes is a seed planted, and every no is a door closed. And the smallest choices often lead to the biggest changes in the direction of your life. Is not decided in a single leap, but in 1,000 little steps taken each day in the quiet corners of your routine and in the unseen moments when no one is watching. Defined decisions find destiny, become tomorrow as being formed in what you choose today. And while you may think it's just a word spoken or a habit repeated or a compromise made in silence, it is becoming the blueprint of your future. And every fork in the road is not just about preference, but about purpose, and every crossroads is a divine invitation to step toward who you were meant to be, or to settle for who the world says you are. Decisions define destiny, because destiny is not discovered by chance. It is built by character and commitment and courage. And while some wait for a sign or a breakthrough or a spotlight from heaven, the truth is that destiny moves at the speed of your obedience. And if you want to see the miraculous, then you must first walk in the meaningful. And if you want the mountain to move, then you must choose to climb. Decisions define destiny, because the easy way is rarely the eternal way, and the loudest voice is not always the wisest voice, and there comes a moment when you must stop blaming your past or your pain. for your people and realize that the power to rise has been in your hands all along because you've been given the freedom to choose, and what you choose will either change you or change. Decisions define destiny because life is made of moments become memories and memories become legacy. And if you want your life to matter, then your moments must matter. And if you want your legacy to be more than noise and dust and faded photos, then your decisions must be marked by truth and love and sacrifice. And that only happens when you live with your eyes on something greater than. Decisions define destiny because one choice can start a chain reaction that impacts generations. One prayer can shift a bloodline. One act of faith can open doors that were shut for years. And while fear will tell you to stay stuck in doubt, will say you're not ready, purpose will rise and whisper that you're already called, and what you decide in faith will never be wasted, even if it doesn't make sense. And the decisions define destiny because you are not a product of luck or fate or circumstance alone. You are a steward of your own soul. And what you feed will grow, and what you ignore will fade. And every decision is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. And if you choose humility over pride, and truth over comfort, and vision over convenience, then you are walking the road that leads to the life you were made for. Decisions define destiny because at the end of your days, it won't be the titles you held or the things you bought or the followers you had that matter most. It will be the decisions you made in love, the stance you took in faith, the times you said yes when it cost you something and no one in the world begged you to bend. And those decisions will echo far beyond your time on this earth. Because destiny is not just about reaching a destination, it's about who you became along the way. Character is the compass because when the lights go out and the crowd is gone and the stage is empty and the applause has faded and the noise of the world can no longer drown out the voice in you. So character that will tell you which way to go and who to be and how to stand, because charisma may open doors, but only character keeps them open. And when everything around you is shaking, it is your integrity that will keep you from falling. Character is the compass because you can fool the world for a while with talent and charm and carefully crafted images, but you cannot fool the mirror. You cannot fool the midnight. You cannot fool the moment when life squeezes you and what's really inside you begins to pour out. And if your heart is hollow and your motives are selfish and your words are coated in sugar but rotten with pride, then the path you walk will eventually collapse beneath your feet. Character is the compass. Storms don't ask for your resume, and temptation doesn't care about your followers, and trials don't wait for you to be ready. And when you are tested in the fire, you won't rise based on your reputation. Your rise based on your foundation. And if that foundation is built on truth and humility and honor and courage, then even if you stumble, you will not be destroyed because what is real will remain. Character is the compass because the world will offer shortcuts and shadows and secrets and tell you that winning is everything and stepping on others is just the way to climb. And that looking good is more important than being good. But when you follow that voice, you lose yourself piece by piece. By the time you arrive at what you thought was success, you will find it empty and cold because you became someone you don't even recognize. Character is the compass because it points you true when pressure tries to twist you and fear tries to freeze you and greed tries to grab hold of you and culture tries to mold you into something you were never meant to be. And if you don't know who you are, then someone else will try to define it for you. And if you don't anchor your values, then the current of compromise will carry you somewhere you never intended to go. Character is the compass because leadership without character is dangerous in power. Without character is destructive in influence. Without character is a house built on sand. And sooner or later, the rain will fall and the wind will blow. And the waves will crash, and what is fake will fall, but what is forged in the quiet, in the dark, in the secret place will stand and shine and speak, even when you're no longer in the room. Character is the compass because your gifts are what you're given, but your character is what you choose. And every day you're either sharpening or dulling that compass with every thought you entertain, every word you speak, every promise you keep, every time you do the right thing. When no watching, and that internal compass is never silent, but it can be silenced if you ignore it long enough. Character is the compass because at the end of your journey, when the battles are over and the crowds have moved on and the titles are gone and the dust is settled and your name is remembered not for what you had, but for who you were, it will be your character that speaks the loudest and lasts longest. And if you've lived true and loved well and stood firm and walked humbly, then your compass is pointed north and your life is pointed others home. Hope anchors the soul because when the waves of life crash hard against your chest and the winds of sorrow howl through the halls of your heart, and the night grows longer than the day and answers feel far and silent, screams louder than any voice you've ever heard. It is hope that refuses to let you drift into despair. It is hope that grips the deepest part of you and says, not yet, not like this, because the storm is strong, but your anchors. Hope anchors the soul because people will leave and plans will fall and dreams will shatter and time will test you. And the ground beneath your feet may tremble and everything you counted on might crumble into dust. But hope remains. Hope whispers even in the ruin. Hope sings even in the song. Hope stands even in the ashes, not because it ignores the pain, but because it believes in something greater than the pain, a future not yet seen but fully promised. Hope anchors the soul because you cannot outrun grief or avoid hardship or escape the reality of a broken world, but you can face it without fear when you know that your soul is tethered to something unshakable, unchangeable, a truth that transcends circumstances, and a promise that does not depend on how you feel, but on what you believe, and what you believe has the power to pull you through what would otherwise pull you under. Hope anchors the soul because we were not made for despair, not designed for defeat, not crafted to collapse under the weight of sorrow. We were born to rise, born to endure, born to cling to something beyond the grave, beyond the pain, beyond what we can explain. And hope is that fire that keeps burning, even when the cold is relentless, that light that keeps shining, even when the fog refuses to lift, that voice that keeps calling, even when everything says yes. Hope anchors the soul because it doesn't need everything to be perfect. It just needs one reason to keep going. One word that says you're not finished, one breath that says try again. One sunrise that says mercy is new, and while the world demands guarantees and outcomes, hope simply asks you to believe that the story isn't over, the page is still turning, the author is still writing, and what's ahead is worth holding on. Hope anchors the soul because bitterness is easy and cynicism is cheap and apathy is everywhere, but hope takes courage. Hope is costly. Hope demands you keep your heart soft when it would be safer to shut down. Hope dares you to keep believing in the face of delay, to keep love in the face of loss. To keep showing up when everything in you wants to disappear, because hope isn't weakness. Hope is war, and choosing it is a victory every single time. Hope anchors the soul because there are days when faith wavers and strength fails and love feels lost and your hands are too tired to hold on. But the anchor holds you when you can't hold yourself. The anchor doesn't depend on your feelings or your track record or your emotional weather. The anchor depends on truth, doesn't shake, it doesn't change, it doesn't leave, it doesn't lie. It simply saves, and that staying power is what saves you. Hope anchors the soul because at the end of every road and the edge of every tear and the bottom of every valley, hope is still there, not as a fantasy, not as denial, but as a presence, as a promise, as a lifeline that will not snap. And when your time comes and your race is done and your breath runs out, may it be said that you held the anchor and the anchor held you, and because you hoped you never live for eternity, not just for today, because today is a vapor, a breath, a shadow that passes before the sun even rises to its full strength. And though it screams for your attention and pulls at your time and promises satisfaction in shallow things, it cannot fill the deepest parts of you. It cannot answer the questions that echo in your quiet moments. It cannot hold you when the lights go out and the crowd is gone and the only thing left is who you truly are. Live for eternity, not just for today, because today is loud and temporary and wrapped in urgency, but eternity is quiet and steady and wrapped in glory. And while today says chase success and stack achievements and gather likes and build comfort, eternity is live with honor, love with intention. Give what the world won't take and become someone whose impact cannot be measured by moments, but only by lives that ripple. Live for eternity, not just for today, because everything you see is fading and everything you touch is passing and everything you build with your own hands will one day turn to dust. But what you build in love, what you build in truth, what you build with sacrifice and courage and faith, that lasts, that echoes, that reaches beyond your lifetime. And one day when you stand at the edge of time looking back, what you live for will be all that matters. Live for eternity, not just for today, because the pursuit of now is a thief when it steals your gaze from what lasts, and the hunger for more is a lie when it trades forever for fleeting. And the pain of discipline is always lighter than the pain of regret. So do not sell your soul for comfort. Do not trade your calling for convenience. Do not bury your purpose just to blend in with the crowd that is walking nowhere fast. Live for eternity, not just for today, because the choices you make are seeds and eternity is the soil. And though it may take time for them to grow, though you may never see the full harvest in your lifetime, every act of love, every unseen prayer, every unseen act of obedience is recorded, remembered, treasured by the one who sees beyond time, beyond surface, beyond applause. Live for eternity, not just for today, because this life is not the end of the story. This world is not your home. And the longing you feel in your chest is not weakness. It is homesickness greater, something higher, something better. And if you listen close, in the quiet between the noise, your soul will whisper it too, that you were made for more than moments, you were made for meaning. Love for eternity, not just for today, because time is short and life is fragile and eternity is long. And while the world says eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, wisdom says love, serve, and live wholly, for tomorrow we live forever. And the greatest tragedy would not be dying, but living long and never truly living at all, never lifting your eyes above the dust, never giving your days to what lasts, never realizing you were eternal all along. Live for eternity, not just for today, because when your name is spoken for the last time on this earth, and your story is sealed, and your breath has returned to its giver, may it be said of you that you lived with the end in mind, that you ran your race with fire in your bones and truth in your heart and grace in your hands, and when you crossed the finish line, heaven stood to its feet and called you faithful.